Standardized testing is wide affirmative action is to exclude minorities who do just as well and prevents them from graduating from selective colleges that impact the cycles of poverty. The card is well, please pull warrants, Carnival PC 18. White students in selective college, 81% chance graduating, only 46%. US students in access college, 9%. Black students who started community college obtained a bachelor's, 55%. Who started 4-year college, completed a degree. Tests reflect the schooling and player-to education factors that overwhelmingly favor white selective colleges. Spend 3 times more student costs with selective colleges have more faculty and better student outcomes despite blacks and Latinos, making up 36% of the college's population. They make up more than 19% of freshmen worldwide. As selective colleges, whites retain disproportionate SCR studies. As selective colleges, 64% of seats compared to 54% of college's population scores. Becoming a low innovation plus when you college have decided to decide quantitative metrics test scores. Explain as little 15% of variation graduation rates. Students scores also average chance at 79% chance of graduation. Portugal has 85% overall student score above average reformer. Likely to selective college, 31% black students, 19% least advanced students. Best when they attend selective college, black Latino students are attracted to the same rate as white students. Top-tier college is much higher than if they attend an access college. Disparities education more superior over for blacks. Earnings were 67% higher for those with a bachelor's degree because criminal blacks and Latinos are entering the middle class, increasingly unequal earnings in college graduates can have 70% increasing earnings inequalities in the 1980s. Plan in the United States, college universities should not consider the SAT nor the ACT in undergraduate admission decisions. Minorities are more likely to be GP discrepancies in plan increase in diversity, Sanchez, PC, and matter. 18. Students of high GPAs and test scores and making minority low income. 50% of the high GPA low ACT were minority, only 4% minority low income students constitute the high ACT moderate GPA group. GPA discrepancies were markedly lower socioeconomic status and SAT discrepancy groups. Hampshire approves the FSB zone increased diversity or evidence of reverse causal MHAD. 15 year not being selected ability to experience interviews, recommendation, communication, entrepreneurs, overarching narratives, motivation, discipline, and capacity self-reflection. GPA measure performance range of course and time class diversity increased to 31%, up from 21%. They'll shake Hampshire's broke. 2 answers. 1 is because Hampshire screwed up when they set up their endowment 50 years ago. 3 other liberal arts colleges did the same when ranker 2 truths the last 4 years and not the tipping point. Second, even if they are right, it's because they're the only college who did it. We're talking about using rankings. Obviously, if every college does it, rankings shift to a different metric. And college admissions and powerful signals society about values. They have causes shift away from a testing culture of individual achievement at CCP 16. Today's culture should invest in that. Access first, access for other quality future. So college admissions as process of value young people in terms of signals what society values. Messages attached to young people single focus on achievement. Development others. College admissions generate positive change in people's ethical commitments. Students interpret college being narrow reflecting achievements and test scores. Admission like for ethical engagement. Single students students in comparison with the access to academic performance pressure redefining achievements of covering chain of educational institutions. Everybody can do set advice or recommendation on proper place again. And the plan results in more rigorous application to boost the effectiveness of admission decision making on the sheet. It can when the college can distinguish and makes it easier for students to identify fit. It's become harder to read and predict the overall leaders rely on things like test scores, cut the goals, so identify inequalities make students successful, craft their to identify the things the school may see. A decrease in output yield should increase, cut the next framework. The standard is harming inequality of opportunity and resources. Any other ethic is complicit in generations of racialized policy that guarantee exclusion. Otherwise, policy neutrality. Hernandez, M18. Overall research on performance is better predicting demographic characteristics of education. Disproportionately excludes racial minorities when low income persons selective colleges efficiency can only be an excuse for maintaining a flawed system. One tool cannot accurately measure the potential people in 40 different chances of life. A resource must be redefined in better ways, which will require offsetting higher inequality and opportunity and critical belief in the current system. Allows those benefits to earn their position on their own success, combination effort. Opportunity resource makes complicit exclusion. Selection criteria. Human natural action define merit purposely to exclude, accept any predictive measure. Inequalities it deserves, and our future generation other potential prefer. Additionally, only consequentialism includes race wrong, so I reckon policy difference, not as bad reckon policy dying for self only consequences and the second first intuition that way because they're the foundational base for any argument theories are contrary to wrong, even if we can't jump with different ways. Second, let's go here, accept that's to model security because belief more objects are act one other they're in a constant state of crisis humans ideal more conditions other theories resource. Third, psychological evidence that we don't identify with your future selves. Number 14, we see your future self surgeon, we consider the future of another person who should study brain changes, people imagine the future, come down to areas where lack of separate things about self than someone else. These same areas are more active, so today in the future they're actively described in decades and what about even 4 active specificity open college universities that aggregate their policy benefits and harm others. So only non-average way to prioritize helping the most amount of people always get different agents have different ethical obligations. Back for the decision involves other issues to be considered underground not being on square with the misinformation policy society more especially when we less for resources ethics serve rationally justifiable standard for the resolution of interpersonal conflict distributed questions and maximum welfare policy just in terms of resulting utilities. B point no commission decision choosing to make access help people psychologically not typing presented we have creates a choice between 2 actions neither submission. C point no to force education forcing a concept makes it hybrid deliberation makes intrinsic interaction we intend to happen. 5 reject calculate. 8 point improve ability of policymakers individuals carry out effective cost analysis even if decisions are always perfectly it's better than not acting. All B point is theory their function if ever necessary but excuse the after moves away from topic in philosophical education kills valuable education. 6 nothing in the EC triggers presumption of permissibility but they should affirm. 8 point is a 2 form and 1 understand something often say hedge against 6 points are they can't prove the false presume it's true. B point is that we presume statements are false until proven true. When I tell you my name is changed we have evidence to the contrary. B point or C point is presume statements are false and possible we can't operate in the world if we can't trust anything we hear. D point is alleged to be irresponsible if we want C to protect time crunch 1 years and distance on those terms are incomplete arguments. Evaluate every speech and make it assessment better rate always a negative always win. 7 phenomenal introspection most absolute reliable historical more disagreement social question race gender class religion etc. The fallibility non-observational with ethics introduction means we value happiness because we can determine each value just as very well as the illness I can be judged about happiness. 8 theory determines the ability of self prefer utility point is ground every impact function under each other ethics will not sense feel certain people looking arguments when you point top which almost are written to the nature of cultural policy makers from the republic who take consequences to matter. 9. Use episode modesty for value frame. Doing these compare the probability frame in terms of magnitude impact on the frame. Prefer 8 points of which should maximize the probability of achieving most more value. The frame attacks and mitigation impact for the straight time mitigation is contingent. The equal cautious and centers being going on for the frame because the ideal out to the top unit fill it. It's important to talk about contention of offense. Equal real people change by keep credence between frames and different way. Those terms D point is response on trouble contention. So the source and contention criteria so longer all or nothing. We said better decision calculus and picking a better read than rather than tricky or 10 interpretation. The negative must not contest the F frame. Read arguments can test alpha would be the F standard or read an alternative frame provided the F standard is actually alternative. The F is disclosed open source. 8 point is caution. AFC for substantive education, substantive education usually include impacts and forces readers to meaningful rebuttal across the disclosure we can use our cross student. You should be able to ready to debate the front, which is key to topic. Class our top always on time. Time frames we've been for over 4 years, but only have the top debate for a few months. We want to stress with the next year after cannot wear the alpha more framing procedural discurrent arguments. AFC levels of link forcing negative commitment to the app. On substance ensures the AC matters. Underview 1 theory when the app gets other than can be making debate possible. B1 is drop the reader short when you should produce and sound invest on theory. D1 is RBA as they can 16 answers for short argument, make the theory impossible. 2 are impossible. D1 is competing interest. 1 your terms are bidirectional. They should have to defend their norm because they have more time.
So just to read after that, and yeah, right? Cool. Ready for cross 6?
Yeah.
Okay. So you read the interpretation proper, right? Like you read what was the dialogue? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Or at least like
I think you read everything I said.
I
Okay,
did.
cool.
Yeah.
Episode of modesty, you give a bunch of justifications. If like I concede a framework indict and you like concede like 2 framework indicts, the indict, or I concede 2 and you concede 1, the indict you concede as induction fails and you just like make a mitigation argument. How do you like calculate who's more ahead on the framework modesty debate?
You can do weighing between the 2 frameworks, or you can just like evaluate the
How
strength
do
of
you
the
weigh
offense.
between frameworks? Doesn't that like beg the question of another framework?
No, because you can like make arguments, obviously.
You can make another framework to weigh between 2 competing
No,
frameworks.
the argument is like, for example, you can say like, here's induction fails, here's like some answer to make your NC. You can compare
so, like, let's
the
say
2.
I concede an indict. Is like my framework like 10% less true, 20% less true, 100%
It's
less
not a
true?
question of like what percent less true, but you can do weighing between the probability of frame comes the magnitude impact under a framework. For example, like if I win that like the case turns the NC, but like you're
Yeah, I don't
this
think
scenario
there's an
is too hard,
example.
but
I think that
but
just proves
you-
that episodic modesty is not possible.
I disagree because episodic modesty is definitely something you can evaluate.
Okay, so how do we determine what impacts matter?
Episodic
You
modesty is like strength of link when.
I get it. So you say probability of a framework times the magnitude of the impact. Doesn't framework contextualize what impacts matter?
It says the magnitude of impact under a framework. Yes.
Okay, that's fine. The Hernandez evidence, how do we combat inequality?
Yeah, the evidence talks about how we should prevent things that disproportionately exclude racial minorities, women, and low-income persons from selective colleges. One common
So like
tool
all of your arguments seem to be about, like underneath the framework seem to be about why we should care about consequentialism or like utilitarian impacts in nature and not specific to the inequality argument you have at the top. Can you explain why your
The Hernandez evidence
argument
justifies inequality, all like the other stuff justifies like why we should use consequentialism.
But it seems like a lot of these arguments justify why we should care about, like, for example, basic impacts. Why is that not the case?
Which arguments?
So, like, you say that, like, the lexical priority argument would seem to justify why we would care about bigger impact or, like, bigger stick impact.
It's a question of, like, people's ability to do things. For example, if someone is, like, socioeconomically disadvantaged, they can't go to college, like, they don't have money, they're homeless, etc. That probably inhibits their ability to do, like, other things.
Okay, can you explain the MAC evidence to me?
Yeah, the MAC evidence makes a claim about how when a decision has like multiple different issues, there are trade-offs between like taking one action or taking another because there's like scarcity of resources in society because we don't have unlimited resources. Thus, ethics need to like find a standard that can resolve those issues and
So
the
this
people
is
that
a
are like.
degrees of wrongness thing, like, we must be able to...
No, this is not degrees of wrongness.
Well, like, you seem to be saying that there are trade-offs, but we weigh between those trade-offs with an ethic that can weigh those trade-offs, i.e. util, right? I'm just confused why other frameworks couldn't weigh those trade-offs as well.
Yeah, so there's also, like, the tag makes an argument about how, like, aggregation is necessary for college and universities to make the decisions about trade-offs.
The tag makes that argument? Okay.
I mean, like, tags can have warrants too, it's called analytics.
Okay, cool. Jennifer. You didn't read after first, right?
Mm-mm. I might read it in the one you read though.
Shop prep, 124 left.
What up?
2 actually. The second one's gonna be stem. Do you want me to send out the intro?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna type it out.
There's the first one, I'm assuming the NC.
Yeah.
Okay. In your case, that framework or?
The under review. Or no, AFC. Sorry.
So AFC then the framework top down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Send the doc out. Let me know when everyone's good.
You said it was sent?
Yeah.
I have it.
Me too. 1 second. Download.
I do find it kind of nice that Valley has just not changed how they format in like 25 years.
Yeah.
It's like you could use a typewriter to do this.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just gonna move this intro to the top because scrolling. We're not verbatim. Okay, I'm good.
Everybody else good? I need Brexel clarity to the this is to implication first. You presume there are more reasons why my statement not be true than one directly proven statement. Second, permissibly flows as absent burden proves more prohibition that on until proving permissibly distinct prohibition negates always the warrants there based on textuality, which always it comes first since we it's the only thing we have access to prior to none of the text resolution itself. Now the framework all beings implicitly jurisdiction on rights freedom will being these are conditions represent setting and atoms. Summarize for every agent implicitly valid judgment about the goodness and represents freedom will being the necessary condition achieve their purpose. Every agent makes a beginning to claim their rights freedom will beings and they have purposely want to fulfill the logically must accept all agents as they write in the option for freedom for harming recipients. That requires the right to non-interference and therefore non-nomination. All agents must have the ability to act on their own purposes without arbitrary interference from other agents or entities. That's the standard is consistency, the right to non-interference. For one, any other type of obligation is capable of such a direct contradiction. There's no clear tension between saying strong directs and doing X is conceivable, but entities inherent obligations are entities inescapable growth. More obligations are categorical, cannot be derived from variable content. For more principle are contingent and finality between rational and belief system, which was already when it stops standpoints to create variable and stupid requirements on this is found generic features all precepts without agents, personal actions and non-instruction that all people's judgment are implicit in. Second, bindings outweighs if an ethic doesn't admit then it can't be used to reliably guide action. Second, non-interference forward by oneself is the music discourse of exchange now of right self-ownership is impossible to function any human beings has to be self-aware. Hot argumentation does not constitute free-floating promise and form actual finding employment scarce means no one proposes being personalized and exclusively fits the body when our presupposed this means justified operator for norm presupposes the unreached right would commit practical honoration. I commit the limiting standard test violence and non-interference model. First, complete removal of standard test arbitrarily interferes students' ability to use particular instances of testing for scholarships and as a balancing factor. Also, ultimately decision should be depending on the admission institutional and implementation policy. There are some very practical uses for underfunded colleges. That's what can be cost-effective way to make admission decisions. Supporters numerically using only test scores, rather used with other factors. Scores can also identify where first generation low income students' truth is complicated, conflicting information to complexity, nuances surrounding use standardized tests. We come down the side using tests with thoughtfully and within the different scores from user organization to identify mental first generation low income, often athletic diverse students pursue college education, which achieves more important institutional and societal goals. Second, the ask principle shifts away from a non-inference model by eliminating a non-arbitrary metric evaluation, permitting a holistic approach that puts applicants at the will of the subject admissions officers with grades based on personality, admission, etc. Third, the ask puts the power in the hands of admission officers and college's presidents that feel dominated by rich women that's inconsistent with their non-inference model, since it takes the choice out of the student's hands to submit test scores and gives unilateral authority to lead for deciding what artifacts of a student are worthy of merit and consideration. Also turns the testing system rather than just re-entrench it, binding power to the same figures they pose. Next off, interpretation division on media parametric as advocacy, consequential based parametric, and affirmative parametric. Violation, all these were in the speech talk standard. Strategy, it allows them to choose artificially parameterized ground that destroys my ability to contest it. The only way to contest plans that have trivially true advantages or advantages that the ground is stacked in their favor is by reading a thesis claim that generally indicts their claim by a different framework, right? Or a critique rule of hell, but that would always negate and can be leveraged against specific advantages. But when you read util with AFC, it prevents me from doing so, which destroys negative content, my ability to contest any of the affirmative, and turns all their clash arguments. Obviously, even if I can read cards, you'll always be more prevalent than me because the evidence in the topic literature itself still leads app, and it destroys access to a swath of negative arguments that prevent it, which means it prevents engagement. Fairness is the voter debate is competitive activity, and your job is to have a debater, not the better cheater, not the better cheater. Debater set a norm for debate. No organization points that usually motivate my premium your fair viewpoint. This is chilling effect for debater. Just read theory, debate the RV, and then win alphabet competing interpretation. The point reasonable appearance of risk bottom. Point reasonable arbitrary dimension. C point reasonably collapses into competing interpretation. These are just going functionally competing bright lines out the app. AFC. Counter-interpretation, all defensive violation standard is philosophical educational laws to understand the nuances of different philosophies and come to a conclusion of which philosophy is better. Fill it out ways. It gives value to other things in debate. For example, what do we value outside of debate itself? Viewpoint. Is this germane to us? Germane to LD? Point. It's something that's underrepresented in LD currently, which means that compensating for that by non-rating AFC is a good thing. The law in the clash rate. What does that know? They exclude impacts, which means that there's no clash rate. You can, for example, read posture and just or you can be structural violence for me, and that means that you exclude every other impact. And you said that I cannot contest your framework, makes it impossible. Is it permanency itself fallacy just because debaters currently do this or something they're most prepared for this? Point. Is it clashes on you? We have clash anyways on a philosophical or the non-working by topic clash specifically uniquely to or topic utilitarian clash. We can solve topic clash based underneath my framework and it would still solve all their offensive strat arguments. One is in people are able to read a framework and respond to it all the time. The second is it screws after 6 minutes of debate which preempts which can constrain possible NC strats in front line response to one interactions. Hard for the negatives they have to make responses free. Third turn this gives you more ways to strategize. A new framework gives you a chance to take the affirmative and apply turns the NC, which gives you more rest of the belt and is necessarily better. The framework proper, the Hernandez evidence is if we should remedy inequalities. One is to still laws in some form of consequential which means any generic intact still applies. Second is non-interference in the non-interference model hijacks. I agree we remedy equalities by respecting each people's rights to freedom and well-being. Third is at least from the Olympics is how do we be sacrificing some inequality, creating some inequality by and sacrificing some for other people, which means you cannot weigh either underneath their from that consequential and generally flourish for a couple reasons. A point, the induction fails. The past is not reliable for the future. We can't use induction period because that would be circular. B point, infinitely cascading. Each consequence is an infinite other consequence. Any binary is arbitrary and self-serving for this position. C point, aggregation fails. We can't compare one migrant to 5 headaches. The degrees of wrongness. When I explain this, we can do the intent of contradictions, will, contradiction to contempt, or strength of intent, or what is the intent of action, which means there are ways to compare. Your framework cannot compare between different forms of pressure. The lexical priority argument is just be different. Instrumental, non-intrinsic. For example, maximizing oxygen may be good for me to debate. Does not mean is a starting point of ethical theorizing. Now, they say the split brain argument. One is that util laws on past identity. Otherwise, we can never make predictions for the future based on our past experiences, which means that their argument takes that util second. No impact as long as you can be held responsible for own choices. You meet the brother for agency. Only your framework cares about split brains. The A-spec argument. They say the A-spec arguments. One is that is that fallacy just governments or is colleges use util does not mean the outro. Second is imperial and colleges have psych insurance like the rights to insure all college students. College students obviously not completely utilitarian. Otherwise, they'd be only allowing acceptance of low income students or people who are not often represented. The active mission distinction argument. One is that there has to be an active mission distinction for states or for colleges. Otherwise, they're infinitely obligated to stop all suffering or stop all suffering since they cannot admit. Second is that the intent foresight distinction. Intent unifies the consequences of action, and also it's people can be threatened by others inflicting bad consequences on themselves, which means we cannot use the intent foresight distinction. The next argument, they're not imperially not just because governments use something as they label as utilitarianism does not mean it is utilitarianism. If induction is true, that means the government's using some sort of bastardized form of utilitarianism. They say it's a no. I'm not triggering permissible error. Just a reason for my friend. The introspection argument one. The introspection argument one One is impurely just proven. Masculine feel pleasure from painful experience. Second, only just as a valid theory. I just because pleasure goes on and I have a moral obligation to maximize pleasure. Third, the ego is industries. Like pleasure is good for me, and I can only interpret my own experience, which means all I'll do is maximize my own pleasure. The TGF's the ground argument. One is turn. People can't use analytics on empirical issues. Means I need more evidence to be prepared for the second turn. Empirical one way, lots of issues. Third, turn topic social divides relative. Neutral falls one way. So neutral necessarily falls one way. The topic argument requires a topic literature survey to prove that the epistemic there's no way between competing claims to epistemic if I concede how do we weigh that? Second, epistemic relies on confidence in epistemic modesty. Third, which concedes confidence. Third is underneath my own framework, which defaults to because of violation of right freedom of being necessarily outweighs any of their structural balance impacts.
Okay. Cross-6. You good?
Yep.
What was the second argument at the top, like on Fernandez?
The second argument was non-interference of modern objects. The way we prevent inequalities by enshrining rights to freedom and well-being, or like non-interference.
Okay. The NC. How does offense function?
What are you asking me?
Like
you say.
Where's the standard? I can't find it. Please tab things in the doc. The standard is consisting of the right to non-interference. What is that?
What is non-interference? Non-interfering with other people.
Okay, how does the NC not interfere with people?
The argument is that the app is a form of interference and should be rejected.
Okay,
arbitrary interference is not justified.
Wait, what does that mean? What is arbitrary interference?
Define arbitrary, or like without reason? Like without respecting their freedom and well-being, or without respecting their rights as agents?
Okay, sure. The NC offense, you're just like rich white admissions people, or rich white men or admissions officers, like, you just asserted this, like, how is this true?
If you want to argue that college admissions or like college universities are not full of rich white men, like, feel free to do so, Tej. I don't think that's a claim that necessarily requires empirics.
Why not?
I don't think that's, why not? It's like just a true fact about the world. But like also I think, so if you want to read evidence that doesn't like disprove this, go for it. Also,
okay, is racism bad under like the NC?
Obviously.
Okay, so are the impacts of like the app bad under the NC?
The NC like says that the impacts of the NC would come prior to the app's impacts.
Why?
Why? So like forms of racism are a form of non-interference, but it's a question of what the action the app is taking. The app is not like saying racism is bad. The app is making a claim to removing certain assessment, which is distinct from saying racism is bad.
If standardized tests are racist, should we remove them?
I think the NC's arguments are that a removal of
okay, can you give examples of policies that colleges have passed that are consistent with the framework?
Like what do you mean? I think colleges probably say like students should have these rights on campus, like the right to free speech, for example, which would be consistent with my framework.
Okay, do they have a right not to be discriminated against?
Probably. I think you're misunderstanding what the NC is saying, right? Violations of like freedom are bad. The NC just contextualizes what violations of freedom are bad in context of the affirmative's action.
Okay, why is racism bad under your framework?
It interferes with other agents' abilities to set ends. Like it interferes with the right to freedom and well-being.
Wait, is this just like Kant?
No.
Okay, how do people set ends?
How do people set ends? That's not relevant. The argument is just that end setting.
Is diversity
Every framework
good?
assumes end setting, and that means that like my framework would come prior because it controls the internal to being able to.
Okay, what was the answer to the topic like TJF?
You require a topic literature survey to make this claim. Like you can't just assert the topic literature is utilitarian. I promise you.
Okay, sure. 4 minutes to wrap.
I'm gonna go find the water function.
Right behind you.
What? I don't even have a bottle. I just realized that. Never mind.
Okay, if I don't like go for any of the like some of the warrants, are there like warrants that you can extend regardless?
Wait, are there what? If you don't go for your framework warrants, I can extend warrants probably. I think all arguments have warrants, so I wouldn't be able to extend warrants. I'm confused by your question.
How do colleges like be consistent? Like basically the actor specificity argument. How is the NC applicable to colleges?
I already answered this question to you. Like colleges do care about the rights their students have, and so like they have rights to not be interfered for example, free speech.
Lexical prerequisite. What was this instrumental, not intrinsic argument?
So like the example given is that I need oxygen to ethically theorize or debate. That doesn't mean resisting oxygen loss is my standard for the round. Like instrumental means it's instrumental to something. It's not intrinsic to ethics itself or intrinsic to ethical
Okay.
action.
What was the drop the debater warrant?
It sets a norm for debate. And yeah, it sets a norm. Otherwise there's positive time for I think is what I said.
The hop argument. Is this in dexicals?
No, I think you asked this the last time we debated as well. It's not.
Never know.
I don't know why it would be in dexicals.
Stop prep. 15 seconds left. Theory, case, and C.
One and C theory, right? Like
Yeah.
counter to.
Yeah.
So doc.
There's like analytics, but they're
Ah.
not organized at all, and they're
That's fine.
very like
No,
no
no,
idea
just-
what I'm gonna read. So.
Just go.
Everybody good? Counter-interpretation, inverse of their interpretation, with the point if the opposite, which source one is affirmative flexibility, I need to be able to use any structure, as I don't know what to do coming around, can't engage otherwise also, because one is reactive, they can react to the affirmative, which means affirmative needs to develop multiple different outs, affirmative flexibility, always because affirmative is harder, that was all the warrants on the presumption arguments in the affirmative. Second is, testing the one and C, my one and C force, key to force, going to engage from different angles, and making different sides which impacts us the rule, because I have to be able to defend our proposals with all different types of objections that we have from one, so they should have to test us from different options. Third is critical thinking hard, having to give a hard one and C is good because it means you should get faster, more efficient, with better strategy, be good. One and C also force you to learn your offs better and leverage yourselves. All of their offense education is a voting issue because it's why schools fund debate, always their offense because schools and fundamental doesn't want to educate everybody in the first place. Your cross argument, one non-unique, every argument student has some reason this is uniquely worse. The point of debate is to win. Second is not true. There's the second is that it's not true. There's a bunch of different ways they could have done offensive. For example, answering AFC and then rating the NC solves all their offense. They also could have read top county etc. solves their offense. There is impact and strategy pressures gated force breaking the efficiency, strategic thinking, learning how arguments. The interacting with terms of terminal impact is the alpha will be able to navigate the good one. The neg will be able to navigate the good one. AC strategies 5 is alpha out with 1 and C out 1 and C has because they have infinite prep to determine what their strategy would be versus the affirmative. 5 is turn they can just jump on the highest barrier with a bunch of your arguments, which means I lose other layers. They say drop the debater, drop the argument solves all their offense. Allows us to get back because they're no longer in the AC, which means they can read all their arguments. It solves all their offense because we go to it's better because we go to substantive education topic that ways because we only have 2 months. Case. Standardized test for minorities accessing higher education, the impact is generational poverty. They've considered the entirety of the case, which means that if their issue to strength and wing, there's a chance that there's a chance for winning Utah, and they were definitely winning the advantage. But if we're winning some kind of defense under contention, it means you should affirm the line by line on consequentialism. Their arguments just for Utah's hard and false. Our predictions don't need to be affirmed and conceded advantage for right induction, or you should extend actor specificity because governments will limit scarce resource because they have to make decisions about whose property rights or requests to serve. For example, if multiple people get robbed, the government cannot send one police car simultaneously to both locations. It's responsible for admitting to rectify the violation, to only non-arbitrary to make decisions, to value everyone equally, and agree with the line by line on Hernandez. As they say, laws and consequences were when the consequence wasn't below. They say hijack with AC assault hijack. You can weigh the rights of freedom under the AC offense, i.e. the consequences of the violation of freedom. They say oppression one, well, obviously not, because some kind of trade-offs you have to be made, i.e. if the app violates one person's right to interference, we win the NC violates one person's right to interference, then you still have to make trade-offs. They say induction fails, but the induction doesn't fail because we don't need perfect predictions. We know that what happened in the past is going to happen in the future, i.e. the sun is at 99% going to rise in the east. They say infinite consequences, but they're true for in the future for humans to think this, so we can evaluate them, which makes a zero probability. They say aggregation fails, but imperfect because governments aggregate social benefits to use eminent domain to take away some people's property, ability, roads, and airports, which trade-offs. Actor specificity, they've considered always because different agents have different ethical standings. They say it's all fallacy, but colleges don't want to discriminate against students because it interferes with their words, which means that the affirmative solves their time constraint argument. We've also extended aggregation above, which solves their offense. The theoretical justifications, not going for it. DNC. Top down on the NC, they say sexuality comes first when the gate isn't in the resolution, means you should default to our affirmative arguments. They say we should endorse the freedom, but we've already made arguments. That's why the AC solves the freedom. They say bindingness when there's an infection, so we use util on the rest. Second, util can guide action because only util can guide action because college universities can't use things like non-interference. We've already justified that. Why aggregation actor specificity come first? They say but we don't force them to deny the right to self-ownership. The app turns this because it allows people to reclaim themselves in the context of colleges by not being discriminated against. The offense one, no way students still have freedom to take into the test. Colleges don't consider them. Second case, turns the intuition include mature consequences by six. Would anything else from a self-proof belief that white people are their position justified reason towards this opposed inferior, which links to their framing. Third is their first argument is answered by a no link argument because students can still use testing for scholarships. They just can't use it for college admissions. They can also submit other kinds of achievements, etc., like a PISA, national merit, semi-finals, etc. It's just not we just shouldn't use the SAT and EC. They say holistic, but it's not unique because the app prevents discrimination. Shifting to those more subjective methods is better because it doesn't interfere with students' ability to get into college or their right to get into college and getting higher education, which standardized testing. They say rich white admissions officers are worse than gives it to the hands of the elite, but there's no more for why the majority of people are rich and white. It's also consistent with non-interference because it's already in their hands, not students, to get into college.
Okay, I had 124 left, so now. Wait, can you just like go through the responses you made to the NC?
Yeah.
The contention.
The contention? Yeah, there's no link because they can still submit the scores, they just won't be considered. There was a case turns the NC argument because we should like, just like racism bad argument.
Yeah.
If you want, I can explain it further because there's
okay.
other stuff. Okay, yeah. There was an argument about how they can still use it for scholarships, which is what your evidence is in the context of, like the first argument that you read. Your second one was like holistic, and the third argument, there's like an argument made that applies to both of these, that the app prevents discrimination and allows people like the right to get into a college that they like deserve to get into, so they aren't discriminated against. There's also an argument that it's not unique because all these other subjective factors are already used and admissions officers are making decisions anyways. Okay. So like, yeah, only a risk of F offense.
That's fine.
No evidence that there's only a risk.
I'm good.
Okay.
And the response to presumption permissibility is not in the resolution.
Yeah, I mean, neither of us also triggered permissibility, so I feel like this isn't relevant.
Okay.
NC?
It'll be the AF, then the NC, then the AF again, then theory. Sorry, that's a little bit.
Yeah. Just sign post, it's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Where am I starting?
On the AF TJS.
Okay.
Okay, so the app TJFs and the NC top down, then the app framework again?
Yeah, and then theory.
You said theory if there's time, as in you might go for it, might not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Yep. Good.
Alright. Theory first, it concerns self-validity of substance of the argument made by the 1AC for why TJs come first. Too bad the TJ conceded parallel offense of why util is theoretically unfair and should be rejected in all instances, which means it does not matter what framework one TJ is winning insofar as when the utilitarianism as a theoretical framework should automatically be rejected. There are two arguments I'm giving for. The first is that people cannot use analytics on empirical issues, which means I need evidence prepared for literally every single issue, which is bad for ground. The second argument is that empirics only flow one way. The third argument is topic structurally divides ground so that util falls one way and weird philosophy falls the other way, which means these all arguments by util is unfair and should be rejected prima facie. Which one? I just need to win the NC offense. Let's go to the NC off or the NC proper. The presumption permissible debate change only since it's not a resolution. No, it's a role that is assigned to me. My rules to negate the resolution. There's an affirmative and the negative, which are roles that are intrinsically assigned to us. It's not a question of resolution, but rather the text of things we have part of run. Our roles are defined part of run, which means always on strength the link. The change is not extended word for our presumption or permissibility. Actually inside the one AC, which means it does not matter. They consider textuality as the cyclone. All the arguments textuality is the cyclone. If there are things that clearly delineated rules for us that in the text, and we can define those rules. That necessarily comes part. Also extend the independent reason why presumption. Extend the independent reason why presumption negates the more reasons why a statement might not be true than was directly prove the statement true. That always the presumption permissibility justification based on presumption permissibility justification based on probability. It's a question of likelihood, even if they're winning some other argument. Now, if I win presumption, that means I do not need to win anything else because after I've won the TJS, because there's no offense that TJ is actually generating. There's only one piece of offense that I'll respond to. Let's go to the offense actually and see the first argument says that no link there. They're not considered. They can still use them. Now, this is a question of whether or not students have the ability to use them before college application itself. You can submit it, but insofar as it's not given anything, then it's arbitrarily determining which artifacts of yours you can use it as a form of interference because it denies its ability to set their own choices or take tests and then use the choice to use that test in the admissions decision process, which it cannot be used in. The second argument says it justifies or the F solves forms of racism. Is that there's no way in between these arguments and which means it goes away. People know this argument does not actually respond to the NC. Yes, the affirmative does solve forms of racism. It's a question of what comes first in the NC framing. The NC framing arguments are just it's a question of the method of the affirmative. It's not whether or not racism in college admissions is bad. Yes, the college admissions process is bad because it uses things that necessarily harm minorities, whether it's access to standardized testing or access to college counseling or access to people who are access to tutors. All those things are something that disproportionately affect the college admissions process. That's something that's wrong with the process, not intrinsic to the nature of standardized testing, which is what the NC starting pinpoint. It's a question of what is intrinsic to the nature of standardized testing. Is not discriminating against people, rather not arbitrarily assessing your ability to take a test. Which means even if they're saying that even if there's a consequential impact it changes framework, it does not matter insofar as it still would not matter because it's a question of intrinsicness to the action itself, which only the negative proves because their action itself is intrinsically a form of interference and intrinsically arbitrarily delineates between what should count and what should not count when it comes to college application, which means my offense outweighs their also change of not do weighing in the 1 error, which means reject 2 error, weighing to screws over the 2 error because I have no 300 respond to any of these arguments, and there's no way to possibly weigh the NC after the 2 error. His third argument says you can still use it for scholarships. The Hostler et al. 18F set evidence also talks about how we should be able to identify for recruit first generation low income students using their test scores, which obviously does not respond to this conceded. The Hostler et al. 18 evidence functionally says complete removal of standardized tests arbitrarily interferes with students' ability to particular instances of testing for scholarships and also as a balancing factor to the application. For example, what if you've been graded incorrectly or grading scheme in your system is really messed up? Only thing that falls back is the standardized test that objectively measures objectively compares your intelligence to other people who are applicants. The second argument, which also considers that principle shifts away from a non-inference model, limiting a non-arbitrary metric evaluation burden on teachers proves that it's not that standardized testing is an arbitrary metric that they have. He has not proven. He says the app prevents discrimination. No, it's a question. You're at a consequence of your app prevent discrimination, but it's a question what's intrinsic to standardized testing, what's intrinsic to removing standardized testing. The only thing intrinsic is a form of interference. The third argument says that the choices in students' NC says it's no wonder they already use these subjective factors. Does not even if the score is bad does not mean that the NC is not negated the truth of the app. So far as denied the truth of the app as an ethical statement, I say the app is ethically incorrect. It does not matter if they're currently using it. It's a question of whether or not they ought to be using it in the first place or whether or not they ought to be doing the action of the affirmative in the first place, which obviously takes down now. Yeah. I've already won the TGS argument because it's functionally game over the affirmative. There are 2 other arguments I'm giving for. The first is the Oprah evidence. I conceded the link to the Oprah or I conceded the link of the Oprah evidence that we split brains to exist. I did not contest. I impact on the conclusion which says that we cannot calculate consequences insofar as they're based on our future selves, which takes any consequential predictions like the entirety of the app because it's based on our past and we cannot use the past insofar as our identity is something that's changing and not based in the past itself. Also conceded you cannot weigh different degrees of wrongness between your frameworks. because even if they're trade-offs, it's morally warranted to create some sort of trade-off. The A-spec argument, he extends that the colleges have unique obligations. Conceded, the argument says if colleges had unique obligations, then they would just accept every single low-income or diversity inclusion, which they obviously do not do, which means empirically denied by the status quo is reason why your framework is not consistent with the actual specificity. Also conceded that in the status quo, colleges do care about rights that do not interfere with students, which means that my framework matters underneath the actual specificity. Well, yeah, like straight up just like conceded responses to why the or like the TGS for why you wouldn't use the neg framework. There's only risk of offense for change. There's not offense, and at best, if you find offense, you can still use the presumption debate to like delineate which offense comes first, because at worst, they're just two competing claims of offense with no weighing between them, because the winner did not do weighing, which would trigger presumption. The theory show quickly. Extended interpretation does not read AFC plan and consequential experiment. I'm just going for the Stroud argument. The Stroud argument says that artificially narrows my ability to engage with the affirmative, and it prevents me from actually contesting in the end. They just say there's a lot of ability to engage with the affirmative. No, there's not, because you parametricize it, which means that general things that negate the resolution every single instance are not allowed, because I cannot read a different affirmative case. It's not unique. All people make strategy, but it's a question of structural abuse. He also says it forces thinking, but thinking is not impossible. And sometimes there's no way to engage with the affirmative. You say I can respond to AFC. That does not actually do anything. It's a substantive reason, but you structurally see the wrong which and hours of reversibility, there's no way to there's no recourse.
Right. Yeah, 15 starts. Okay, quickly, the theory argument at like the paradigm issue, and then
The AFC shot. Or the
yeah, the one with Q.
Okay.
And then the NC at the contention. Okay. Continue to drop your argument on the show, solves all their offense, you just drop the parameterization back to whole res, they said drop AFC, drop consequentials and quote, NC. For Nietzsche and Nancy, we do get neutral in our two AR arguments. Obviously, we have to respond to the 2 and I can't preempt all their weighing because I'm not a psychic, and the time crunch 1 year justice has no way to preempt all their arguments. Otherwise, it's GG because the recent evaluation after the 2 and there's no way for the 2 to respond to 2 arguments. Also incentivizes sandbagging because the 2 can sandbag a bunch of weighing from the 1 and 6 to the 2 which is what they did in this round. Because obviously, none of this weighing was from the 1 and 2, which means they get 6 minutes in each 2 weighing, and there's no way for the 2 to respond, which is obviously it's reciprocal and necessary to compensate, which answers the argument. This was also pretty light, and their only arguments that there's no 3 and R, but obviously they can solve that by preempting my arguments, which hedges back for it. Now, the NC proper. Framing issue, there's 2 arguments that the 2R will go for. First is that the case turns the NC. Second is that we don't link to any of their offense. If we're winning the case turns the NC and that it doesn't link to their offense, then you should err on the side that there is a chance that you can use consequentialism, because they have 100% discriminate, only like mostly discriminate, which means that there's a risk of offense. That's why the app prevents racism, and you can see that racism is bad under the NC, which means that if you know the advantage of increased racism or stops racism in college admission, then that's a reason to vote affirmative. If we prove there's no link to the affirmative on any of their offense, then you can vote affirmative, because only where you have a risk of offense. Now, line one on the NC framework, there's no link because students just have the freedom to take and submit tests. Colleges don't consider them. The line one in their arguments, they say that they say whether or not students can use their college app. It's still arbitrary because they can't use it for their college, but they can still use it for their college application. I.e., they can put in additional information, they can put in academic honors, etc. But there's no reason as to why the colleges have to consider it. If saying the colleges have to consider is that interference with the colleges, which turns the interference with the colleges can do, which it turns the NC. And this reason they don't get the argument. They say there's no weighing for racism bad, but they said in cross-six that racism is bad. It's also racism bad, which means that if we're winning, it doesn't link, then, or if the app doesn't link to the NC, then that's not a reason to put on it. They say access to tutors, etc., are not intrinsic to nature of standardized testing, or entirely the advantage was dropped. We have made a claim that standardized testing is intrinsically biased against minorities. For example, when a college gets 100 black people and 100 white people, 100 black people and 100 white people with the same SAT score, more white people than black people get into that college, which is proven that it's intrinsically biased against minorities and interferes with their right to get into a college that they deserve to get into, which turns their NC conjunction. This was an argument in the 1 year because it's a question of recognizing the right to get into the college that they deserve to get into. They say that it's good necessary to find and identify students as good for scholarships. Yes, they can use it to find and identify people as good for scholarship. They just shouldn't use it for admission decision, which means this argument doesn't link. They can also use it for financial aid after. There's just no reason why they should use it for admit decisions. They say holistic is worse because testing is arbitrary / we can deny that even if the score is bad because it's a question of obligations. Look, testing is arbitrary. All of our arguments throughout all of the conceded evidence prove that testing is arbitrary because the way in which it's utilized is used to arbitrarily discriminate against minority students, i.e. minority students get into selective colleges at a lower rate than white students do, which is a reason as to why the argument is wrong. They say we deny the app even if the score is bad. Look, if the score is bad and the app is bad, then only under Nancy, then only we have a risk of offense because racism is still bad and we have a chance of preventing that even if you're not 100% sure that consequentialism can be used.
Look, they can submit scores. They just can't be considered for admits. They can be used for all the things they say they can be used. The app prevents discrimination in admissions, which allows people to get into colleges they deserve to and prevents interference.
B2B.